Good morning, everybody. My name is Jared O'Leary. I've been drumming since 1998. I still got plenty to work on. In fact, today I'm going to be working on the drum kit, which I've spent a very small amount of time actually practicing. Most of my drumming has been rudimental, and then concert percussion, and then like less than 1% of my time actually spent on limb independence and drum kit and whatnot. So in these over 400 recordings of all these live streams, you can see what I'm practicing, how I'm practicing, as well as some of the answers that I give to the different questions that I receive on the various chats that I am currently streaming on. I will often edit those responses down and put them into this playlist that has just under 100 videos in here with over 13 hours of free drumming tips that I've learned over the years, having drummed for almost 30 years and having taught every single grade, kindergarten, all the way through doctoral student, so I have a range of performing and teaching experience. In these edited responses to the questions that I've received, the very first thing that I talk about is whatever the title is. So this one's talking about 3 different flam taps and 1 exercise to work on them. And then when it says and other drumming tips or and other teaching tips, that means there are more topics inside of this nearly 100 videos that are on here. So if you just check the timestamps in the description, you can see the other topics in there that might be of more interest than the title itself. Now, all of the free exercises that I will be using to work on my limb independence are found on my home tab of YouTube. There's over 2,000 of them. So if you scroll down, we've got chop stuff. We've got over 1,000 grid variations. Click on the header to actually show all of the playlists for it. Limb independence is where I'm going to be practicing today. We've got almost 500 marching bass drum exercises, some drumline cadences, almost 400 technique exercises. This one you also have to click to show all of the different playlists to work on like stick control or endurance and speed or whatever you want to practice for your technique. And then here's where you can find the nearly 100 videos on drumming tips from all the questions I've answered during the streams, some scripted lessons, as well as the over 400 live streams if that interests you. So we are going to start off by getting motivated because I'm not good at limb independence yet. So Shia LaBeouf here is going to help us out. Oh, I believe that's mid-spit. You can see it glistening in the light. Okay, I'm going to hide Shia because of copyright. Don't worry. He's here in spirit. We got to be able to hear him so we can replicate the great motivator, Shia LaBeouf. Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it. Make your dreams come true. Just do it. Some people dream success. Well, you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it. Just do it. Yes, you can. Just do it. Oh, he spit. He wiped it off. If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up. Wow, Shia LaBeouf, I'm super motivated. Thank you so much. Okay, so the way I'm practicing limb independence is actually using this book. So it's 50 Ways of Syncopation. It's by Don Moyo. Highly recommend the book. It's got 50 ways to practice. Ted Reed's charts at the end of the book titled Syncopation, hence the name 50 Ways of Syncopation. Now, the way that I'm working on this is largely based off of Gary Chester's idea of limb interdependence, which he talks about in New Breed 1 and 2. I recommend those books as well, but you don't have to get them, although I do recommend them. Now, the resources that I'm going to be using are either located on my home tab of YouTube, or you can find them here. So this is jaredoleary.com/drum, and it's just organized neater than what I can do on YouTube because, you know, it's my website as opposed to YouTube's website. Now, I just put up at the top of the screen the first pattern that I'm going to be working on. So in Dom's book, he's got 50 ways to practice limb independence with the charts in his book or with the play-alongs on my website, etc. What I've done is I've taken all 50 of those and put them into this spreadsheet. This spreadsheet, column A, keeps track of how I'm doing on average. So, for example, pattern number 2, which is where you play this, ding, 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 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, just a standard swung. The short notes, 8th notes, are going to be on the snare drum. Long notes are going to be on the bass drum. Like that. Okay, so for that pattern, on average, across all these times that I've recorded it and put it into here, I'm technically proficient, which means I can play the ink on the page, etc. Cool. We are practicing, so I'm skipping all the ones that sound technically proficient or sound musical, which means I'm adding in all the extra textures, flavors, timbres, blah, 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 blah. So I'm skipping all the way down to the ones that need a lot of work or just kind of sound meh at the moment. So for right now, pattern number 38 needs a lot of work. So on average, it's not so good. However, most of the last times I've been playing this, it has been getting better. 2 days ago when I practiced this, it was at 95 and it was meh. So I'm going to slow it back down to 90. We're going to try this again. So the pattern that I'm doing here, instead of ding, 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 there's no hi-hat foot that's doing the ostinato. Instead, I'm playing this ostinato while I read through the patterns on the snare drum. Cool. Not so hard, right? Except you're filling in with triplets on the feet. So triplet, triplet, trip. So the left foot is going to be playing. So if I were to play this like on the double bass, so triplet, 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 triplet. Here's what it sounds like as written though. So triplet, 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 triplet. Weird, right? While you're going ding, 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 etc. So this one, we're gonna warm up with it. Woo! We're starting off strong. We're going to do that 90. So I'm going to go past the chop stuff, past the grid variations, and we are inside of the limb independent section. There's permutation patterns here. There's straight charts, and then the same charts, but swung in the play along that I can hear through my headphones that you cannot hear unless you go to here. Okay, so we're doing that 90. So I'm going to go into the swan charts from 60 to 99. And I'm just going to pick a set of charts. Sure, my mouse is already on 11 through 15. Sounds great. Why, hello. How you doing on YouTube? We're going to 90. Boop. And I'm going to flip my mouse upside down so hopefully it doesn't wiggle around and mess things up. Oh, wait. It's got low resolution. We got to put this at 1080. Okay. 1, 2, dun, dun, dun. So bing, ding, ding, ding. Okay, not too bad, right? We're reading the part on the snare. This is nice, comfortable, slow tempo. But we're filling in strict alternating with the right foot and the left foot playing on the hi-hat. And the right foot's obviously on the bass drum. 2, 1, 2, wish me luck. I read that wrong. Woo-wee! Now, I would not recommend playing like a full chart like this. This is just for, practicing, hence why it says practicing in the very first word for the title for this particular stream. But you might play a fill, a big hit like this. But I'm going to put it on bass drum so you can hear what it sounds like for the feet. I read that wrong. No! Cut. Okay, so now I'm going to put it back on the left foot on the hi-hat. So this is as written in Don Moyle's book, 50 Ways of Syncopation. So we're going to have... Okay. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, here we go. Weird, right? This requires a lot of brain power to be able to play through it. It's a fun challenge, though. I like it. It's just, you know, difficult to, like, warm up with this. And just for clarification, if you are a beginner or even intermediate drummer, I wouldn't recommend trying this. It's just not an easy one. I read that wrong. I keep reading it wrong. Stop that, Jared. Yeah, so most of the mistakes are reading airs. I'm trying to remember to talk about something when I do the stretch and massage here. And, like, I'm keeping that in the back of my head, and then was, like, thinking about, like, some other stuff that I just, like, saw on YouTube yesterday. And so my brain is, like, not at all paying attention to what I'm doing, and so I'm reading it wrong, and, you know, good story. That was weird, right? It's a good challenge. I like it. It makes my brain all tingly. Okay, mostly technically proficient, some reading errors in there, but we were mostly playing the ink on the page. It did just change column A, but because I played it meh last time, I'm gonna actually switch the meh to needs a lot of work, so that way it like resets the average. And so that way I'll need to work on it again. So I want to make sure I at least have a couple of times in a row where it's technically proficient. It's been good the last several times, except for 2 days ago. It was just kind of, not great. But anyways, okay, cool. We did it. Yay. Let me do this. Whoops. We're going to stretch and massage now, and then I'm going to work on a few more of these limb independence patterns, so stay tuned for that. But I want to actually talk about something that I mentioned yesterday in my stream. So somebody was asking questions about whether or not it's worth it to get a doctorate in music. Well, hello. So I want to kind of talk about that. And yeah, I'll talk about whether or not you can learn drumming on your own afterwards. But while I'm doing this, I'm going to do a stretch and massage routine. And you can actually find a video for that on my home tab of YouTube under the tips and lessons section. It's in the drumming lessons playlist. And it's called This Hand Routine Saved My Drumming. So check out that if you're interested in it. But I want to elaborate on some of the things that I was mentioning with whether or not it's worth it to get a doctorate for the extra pay. And so in yesterday, I was kind of like, it's probably not worth it. But there's some other things that I'd recommend considering also when you are potentially going to get a doctorate. So while I stretch and massage, I'm going to talk about that. So I'm not going to narrate the stretch and massage that I'm doing. But let's see. One of the things that you want to consider if you want to start getting into like teaching at the collegiate level, whether it's adjunct or as like a full-time professor, is the amount of workload that you'll have in the university and collegiate space might be way more than you'll have if you're doing like a K-12 teaching gig. Especially when it comes to music and whatnot, there's like always new pieces to learn. If you're a performance faculty or if you're a scholar, like if you're like a music education professor, odds are you might have to have some publications as well as some presentations and service hours, which means like serving on different committees and whatnot to help the field. So there's a lot of things that are not necessarily evident in your day-to-day that you will end up doing. So on paper, it might seem like a university professor would have less to do than a K-12 like educator, because the professor, it's like, okay, well, they only teach for like maybe 8 months, and they have more time off for winter break, more time off for summer break, etc. But what you don't see is that you will likely be working all summer. You'll likely be working on nights as well as on weekends and whatnot, because you're going to be working on like different publications and presentations and doing all this service hour where you're like, you are helping with different committees at the university or nationally, etc. So on paper versus in actuality, it can be like night and day different in terms of the amount of workload that you're going to do. So if like if you're interested in teaching at the collegiate level because it seems like you might make higher pay for less amount of work, it kind of depends on where you're at. There's only one person that I can think of who that is the case for, and everybody else that I can think of that teaches at the university level, it's like significantly more than you might expect in terms of the work that you're doing. If you like doing research, then cool. One of the things that I'd recommend doing is looking at high research output institutions, which is often referred to as like R levels. So like R1 is the highest number. R2 means you might do like less doctoral students, etc. So if you are interested in doing like the academic side of things, going to an R1, you will focus more on publications, presentations, service hours than you might for teaching. But if you go to like a community college where you're going to teach at, they might not care about any publications. That might not be any requirements in your contract in there. So 90% of your time might end up being teaching. Whereas if you go to an R1 institution, it might be like 20%, 40% of your time is actually teaching. And then you'll have a significant portion dedicated to scholarly activities like research, publications, and then maybe like 20, 40% of your time on service, like serving on committees, things like that, across the nation and within the university that you're working with. So those are some things to also consider if you decide to go the collegiate route for teaching as opposed to the K-12 route. Just looking through my notes real quick. Yeah, so as just like a quick summary, if you really like teaching and you really want to teach the collegiate age group, which is a great age group to work with, like whether you're teaching undergrads or graduate students, it can be a lot of fun. Community colleges might give you more opportunities for teaching because there won't be the requirements for the research and publication or the publications, research, presentations, etc. They might just be like, hey, all we want you to do is just teaching classes. Don't worry about other stuff. So teaching at the community college could be a way to do that. The problem with teaching at a community college is there are so many people who have gotten PhDs who want to teach at the university levels, but because a lot of the people who are at the university levels will stay in that position for 10, 20, 30 years, etc., so they end up getting the one, maybe two positions that are available there, and then they stick around for a very long time. While they might be graduating, several people with a doctorate, to get into the field. And so there's a surplus of students, former students, who have PhDs, who want to become professors, but there's not enough openings out there. So what they end up doing is they apply for community colleges. And so at the community college level, you might get an adjunct position where you are teaching part-time, but it is nowhere near the amount of time that you need to actually be able to make a decent income, a livable wage off of it. In fact, some of the community colleges will cap it so you can only teach a certain amount of hours as an adjunct, and they won't allow you to go over that. So you might, at most, be able to make like $15,000, maybe $20,000 a year, and that's if you're lucky. Some community colleges won't even let you get close to that. You might only be teaching like 1 or 2 classes, etc. So if you want to focus on your teaching, cool, you could do that at a community college level, but you might not have the opportunity to get your foot in the door because there's just so many people who are applying who are super qualified. That being said, you do not need a doctorate to teach at a lot of community colleges or sometimes even at some universities. So Don Moyo, who is the drum set professor at Arizona State University, he only has a high school degree, or a high school diploma. When he finished high school, he started teaching at the collegiate level because he was that good. So if you're a performer, all they really care about is like how good you are as a performer. If you have like a DMA, so a doctorate in music performance, basically, the MA is musical arts, but anyways, so if you have a DMA, then odds are you're probably a really good performer. Or if you have experience in the field as a performer, where you're playing in an orchestra or a symphony or whatever, or just playing gigs like on the weekends or whatever, you might have the chops to be able to teach at that level without having to have the doctorate. If, however, you want to teach music education courses at the collegiate level, they're going to look for experience in the classroom. So did you actually teach in a K-12 setting? So most university positions and even like community colleges will require a certain number of years of in-field experience actually teaching the subject area that you're doing. So one of the things that I recommend, whether this is for somebody thinking about getting a doctorate or like for a person who is just starting their doctorate, whenever mentoring them, one of the things that I recommend is to reverse engineer the amount of education and the amount of experience you need in certain areas for different kinds of job descriptions. So look at your ideal job that you would like to apply for right now that you're currently not qualified for and go, okay, well, what level of education does it require? What level of like publications does this require? What level of performance might this require, depending on what you're doing? Let me give you an example of this, and let me pull up my website here. You can actually see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go to my website. So this is where you can find all the like drumming resources, etc. So if we go to /CV, here's my CV on here. So I'll just kind of like walk through the different sections in here to show you why I did certain things related to like my background in music education. So I have a bachelor's, master's, PhD in music education. And the reason why I wanted to get a PhD in music education is because I wanted to teach at the collegiate level, specifically working with like undergrads as well as graduate students. And for most of the positions that would require that, you would need to have a doctorate in music education. So this is why I went and got the PhD. But if you want to teach just at the community college level, which when I say just, I don't mean that as like it's low or anything, you might only need a master's in music education. You might not need to have a doctorate. So look at what the job postings are at the community colleges you're thinking of applying for, and then you can just kind of reverse engineer the level of education you need. Now, because I was very interested in Research One institutions where like it's a high output of research and whatnot, I had to do a bunch of publications. So I've got like over a dozen publications in here for like book chapters, for like various research handbooks, as well as like journal articles, peer-reviewed, etc. The reason why I did this, even though it had nothing to do with like the jobs that I was doing at the time, was because I wanted to get future jobs where this would be required. So even though in my current jobs, when I was working on these publications, I didn't need them, I worked on them so that way I could get future jobs that I was applying for. Because I didn't want to like have a dream position open up and then have 0 publications, and they require a certain number of like scholarship demonstration to be able to write and publish in the field, and then not be able to get it because I wasn't preparing for that. So if the job requires publications, start working on those, and you can work on those in your graduate program. A lot of the jobs that I was interested in also required your ability to be able to communicate with the field that you were in. In this case, I've taught both music education courses as well as computer science education courses. So I've done a ton of presentations, like over 100, 120 or something like that. And all these publications or these presentations here are at different conferences across North America, and just trying to communicate out there the things that I was doing in the classroom, as well as the research that I was conducting with the various like activities that I was doing. Another thing that I was really interested in, because I wanted to do a Research One institution, is they are very interested in your ability to be able to work on and get some grants. So in this case, I've worked on like multi-millions of dollars worth of grants as a co-PI, which is a co-principal investigator. So that means I've actually conducted NSF-funded, National Science Foundation-funded research as a co-PI on a variety of grants. You might not need to be able to do any of this stuff for like a community college or even some universities where that's not the requirement. So I was doing this specifically because the jobs that I wanted to do were requiring it, and because, quite frankly, I was interested in research. So I really enjoyed doing this as like either a board member or as a co-PI on different grants. So grants are cool and all, but you might not need to work on that. Honors and awards in general are just like great overall, especially if you have awards that are outside of like your locale. So if you have like a region specific like award as like, I was teacher of the year at my school, great, that's awesome. But if you can get apply for like the national and international awards, then that will really set you apart from a lot of other candidates. So the more of these, the better, etc. If you're applying for a job. One of the biggest things they're going to look for, whatever you're doing, is your experience teaching the thing that you're about to teach. So if you are applying for a university position or collegiate position and you want to do it full time, try and spend years before doing it adjunct, if possible, working with that particular population. If you go into it and be like, well, I think I'll be good at this, then they're going to look at another candidate who actually has experience and go, okay, well, this person has like 5 years experience teaching at the graduate level or undergraduate level, whereas this person who's applying hasn't even done that yet. So if you can get your foot in the door through adjunct work, I highly recommend doing that. But also teaching at the like elementary level or K-12 level can really set you apart from some people who teach at the community college level who have never taught a day in their life, but have like degrees in that particular field. So there's that. And then there's curriculum and professional development. That's just like a side quest that I did for a few years. You don't really need to do any of that to get a collegiate level. One of the things that I do recommend if you're applying for any kind of a position is to actually like take your teaching samples and your performing samples and create some kind of a digital portfolio. So like here's examples of like curricula that I've created or classes that I've taught like many years ago, and it shows like teaching demonstrations. Blur out the student faces when you're sharing that kind of stuff, but show your work basically. Like here's a demonstration of what I can do. Like all the like thousands of drumming resources on my channel and the like 13 plus hours of me teaching drumming content on my YouTube channel. That's all something that I could just like share in a playlist. Like, oh, you want to see me teaching drums? Cool. Here you go. Here's like over a dozen hours of that. Service. This is where you are going to like serve at the university level, like on committees for it, or at the national level. So I've done a variety of those in both music education contexts as well as computer science education contexts. This is 100% optional for a lot of the positions that you apply for, but the Research One institutions, usually speaking, will require like 10, maybe 20% of your time on service. So if you can get your foot in the door as like the treasurer for your like local chapter of whatever field you're trying to get into as a professor, that can help you set you apart because you're already demonstrating that you are a leader within the space that you are applying for to be able to teach. So the more service you can have, the better. This can be like as a reviewer of journals. This can be as like a treasurer or as the treasurer for a state chapter for computer science educators. I've done a lot of reviews for music education journals, etc. The more, the merrier. You can also do grant reviews if you are really interested in like being a co-PI on grants. If you are a grant reviewer for like the Department of Education, for NSF, etc., this actually allows you to see what are the reviewers looking for, which can help you to write better grants because you'll go, oh, whenever I've like served on the last few reviews of these types of grants, I've noticed that reviewers are specifically looking for X, Y, and Z, and then you can make sure to include that in the grants that you will help co-write as an actual like co-PI or whatever. Some will ask you to see if you're actually a part of like different affiliations, etc. So you can include some of that, but they'll also ask for like performance experience or private instruction experience if you're doing like some of the teaching stuff. But I'm going to ignore some of that stuff because that's not as relevant as we're doing. So that is a very quick like overview of some of the things that I'd want to add on to like yesterday's discussion of like whether or not it's worth it to get a doctorate in music education. And I see that there's been actually a bunch of comments on here, and I was intentionally ignoring that so I could just finish the thing that I was talking about. But let me take a look at this. Can you learn drumming on your own? Totally. So actually right here on my website, there's over 2,000 exercises here. Since they're on YouTube, you can also just go to my home tab if you prefer to. But there's 62 chop exercises here. I wouldn't start there if you're new to drums. There's over 1,000 grid variations that you can work on here. There's limb independent stuff, as well as a video showing you how to develop limb independence. There's almost 500 marching bass stuff if you're doing marching bass drum. There's some drumline cadences. There's almost 400 technique exercises. This is great for anyone who wants to work on like their, I don't know, roll timing or their 3s and 4 strokes or stick control or whatever. And then down here is well over 13 hours of like drumming tips in here, over 400 live streams so you can see like how I practice all the things that I practice, as well as like scripted lessons like how to hold traditional grip, etc. Am I a teacher? Yes, I have bachelor's, master's, PhD in music education, and I have taught every single grade, kindergarten through doctoral student, in both computer science and music education contexts, because I'm a nerd. You don't have time to stop in today, but you just want to say cheers. Hey, I appreciate you stopping in, Dennis. Hope you have a good day. What's my gain for the stream? Very interested to learn about music theory for drumming. Oh, what's my plan for the stream? I'm working on limb independence today. But music theory is not really something that is super useful for drumming. There's actually, so my dissertation explored something called chiptunes, which is where music is made through like retro gaming consoles and like old hardware and stuff. So like here, corpus assisted discourse analysis and music related practices discussed with hiddenchipmusic.org. It's a mouthful, I know. But they actually talked about in this dissertation, which you can access for free, whether or not music theory is useful for making music. And the vast majority of people were like, no. Music theory was used to describe music after it was already created, not necessarily to compose the music. So it's a way of analyzing what was done and may or may not be helpful for like creating that music. It can be helpful, but for drumming, like it doesn't matter what chord progressions are. You don't need to know what scales are even. It's not going to help you with your drumming. So the vast majority of music theory is going to be completely irrelevant to what you're actually going to do on the drums, in my opinion. And a lot of people also tend to agree with that particular opinion. Let me see, what's another question? Is there any interesting research on percussion instruction and learning? Yeah, there's actually a ton. So there's Percussion Arts Society. There's people who will like publish some of the research in there about percussion practices and what people are doing. There's a ton of research on pedagogy, not just in the percussion area, but in the music education, like the larger music education field. But beyond that, there's also research on skill acquisition and expertise development. And so that's where I like draw a lot of like from sports psychology and kinesiology. I take that scholarship and apply it within high performance settings like drum corps, etc. And it's super relevant. So if you look both in the fields of music education, like percussion education, etc., you can find a lot of great resources on there. But there's also a ton outside of the field, if that makes sense. So if you want more specifics, I can like cite some scholars and whatnot. But if you go to here /drum, there are under the publications, all of these publications are free. So like if you want to learn more about like research on affinity spaces and what those are, like, which is like we're interest-driven learning within a class. So if you had like 30 kids in a class, you could have them working on 30 different projects simultaneously. Like you can look at the research on there. There's also like I've done publications on the intersections of like music and computer science. So if you just like look in here, because again, you can find all of these for free. This is a preprint copy, so like don't cite it. But at the end of it, it's got like all the research that I was citing for the different things that I was talking about at the very end. So it's the last like several pages of it. But I haven't written a ton about skill acquisition and expertise. I can't speak. Most of what I've written about is like computer science and music combinations, as well as video games and music. If anyone's interested in that, if you go back further, so I've done like 3 chapters on that. So this one, sonic participatory cultures, and then there's another one that I did somewhere. I forget, but you can look at those in the scholarship on there. And this is all for free? Yeah, so all of the drumming resources that I've got on here are free. So if you go to /drum, they're all either currently out or scheduled to release for free. So there's like 450 some odd videos that are scheduled to release down the road. So if you see like in the Accent Tap playlist, like this one that says members first, these 2 right here, that means it's gonna come out. So you can sign up for 99 cents, which is the lowest I can make it on YouTube, and you'll get like 450 some odd videos if you want early access. Otherwise, if you just wait, there's a brand new play along that comes out every single day. So it might be a year and a half or so for one of these play alongs to come out, but there's still like over 2,000 that are out right now that'll keep you busy for a while. Learning music theory helped you with understanding things like piano chords, but you've never used it on drums? Yeah, I agree. It can be useful for like thinking of like shapes of hands, like when playing like marimba, which like I have a background in. So like my undergrad was like all concert percussion stuff. So it can be helpful for that, but for drums, like actual drums, not just the broader category of drums, it's not super useful. And I say that as somebody who took 8 semesters of music theory, because I had to do 4 semesters in my undergrad, 2 in my master's, and then 2 in my doctorate. And then technically I had 2 others that were like electronic music theory, but the university didn't count that because it's not real theory according to them. You're learning about phrasing at the moment. How would you recommend learning about this and other conceptual things for drummers education? Study more music. So under the drumming tips right here, there's a bunch of tips in here that I recommend for you to be able to improve your playing. But one of the videos is how to improve sight reading. So this is number 79. And at the start of this video, I have here just like all these different books that I have used to work on my sight reading, to work on reading more music. So as I would use these different books, I would just like read through it once and then maybe set it aside or spend some time working through it extensively for over multiple months. This made it so that I had a broad understanding of like the ways that different people wrote different kinds of music, and made it so that I better understood what was possible on the different instruments I was playing. So sometimes I would learn something that was possible on like marimba and go, oh, that's really cool. What if I applied that to like on drum kit? Or what if I applied this concept of a phrase or a rhythm or even a rudiment on a different instrument, etc. So I highly recommend just like learning as many different styles as possible outside of the genre that you normally do, and just like read as many method books as possible, or like go through as many of these like thousands of exercises on my YouTube home tab as possible. Like go through the chop stuff, just take it really slow, even if it's like super difficult, just to like learn, oh, well, that's a really weird rudiment. Maybe I'll include that in my writing. Or like check out the different technique exercises. They introduce all kinds of like weird rhythms and timing things that you can work on that you can then go, oh, how would this phrase work on this other instrument, and apply that there and just experiment with it. So it's okay to like write something that doesn't sound good. In fact, I'd argue that like every year I get better at it, and I look back at like even stuff I wrote like a couple years ago and go, I'd write that better like now. Same thing with like even my like edits on like the gaming content I make. Like in some of the edits from the games that I played, like streamed a couple of years ago, I'm like, I would have edited that differently because I've gotten better at it. So just be willing to make mistakes and to like learn new things when you're writing stuff. Like what you write now will be completely different from what you write 5 years from now. Joe's site is the best resource to learn percussion. Hey, I really appreciate that. Thank you. You're referring to specific theory for drumming? Yeah, so that's what I'd recommend is actually just read more drumming stuff. Like all of these different books on here are books that I have used. And if you actually go to /gear, which is the second link that's on like each one of the play-alongs or each one of the like drumming tips videos, inside of here are some of the books that were just demonstrated there. So, for example, these are some of the drum kit books that I recommend. Like I was just warming up with 50 Ways of Syncopation by Don Moyle, and I mentioned these two books. If you're into drum kit, check some of these out. If you're into mallets, here's some fundamental books that you can work on, especially Lee Howard Stevens' books, Method for Movement. This one is like an absolute must if you play Stevens grip. Some rudimental books that I recommend. Concert Snare. One of my favorites is the Cerrone book, specifically the study guide one. This one has notes from the composer, Cerrone, on like how to play certain things and why he wrote things certain ways. So this is a great way to unpack like the thoughts of a composer to go, oh, that's what they were thinking when they wrote this idea or this phrase, or oh, that's how you'd play it. If you want to get into more advanced stuff, De La Cluse, usually graduate students go through like Dos Etudes or Kais Clariana, etc. So like these can be useful to go through if you're much more advanced with snare drum. But this one is like late high school and undergrad level, like for a lot of these solos. There's stuff for timpani, and then here's like the sticks and stuff that I'm using for that, etc. Information help you realize some of your flaws like flams. Hey, I'm happy I can help in some way. I mean, I'm trying to create the resources that I wish that were available when I was learning how to drum. Not that I'm like done learning how to drum by any means. Like we're working on stuff I'm not good at yet. So anyways, I rambled a bunch. Sorry. I've only played once so far. All right, so we warmed up with this particular pattern, number 38. We'll keep working on this one. Let's do the next one. So this one is number 39. And let me make it so you can actually see it. So number 39 is going to be this. Boop. Okay, so this one is weird, to say the least. Hey, thank you for the sub. I just saw that on YouTube. Sorry, I didn't hear the notification. Okay, so this pattern is rough. Here's why. Okay, so it starts off with 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're taking the swung pattern and you're doing double time version of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. While you 1, 2, 3, boom, chick, chick. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you're having a mixed meter. So your right hand and your left hand are gonna play in 4/4 while reading through charts, while your feet are doing 3/4 the entire time. Now, that's hard enough as is, but this pattern, the 39.1, makes it extra hard by actually switching what drum you play on every bass drum hit. So you switch to a different drum. So, example. That wouldn't be so hard if you weren't reading charts that are also in 4/4, but you're playing in 3/4. So this pattern requires like maximum effort from my brain in order to even get like remotely close to what I'm supposed to do with this. So the speed that I played this at last was 7,000 beats a minute, also known as 90. So we're going to try it again at 90, and we'll see if it sounds okay. All right, so we're going into the straight charts here. Straight charts, 60 to 99. And we're just going to pick like a random one. There's 55 charts in here, so sure, 31 through 35. Sounds great. Inside of all of these thousands of play-alongs, there's timestamps in here, so you can jump to whatever BPM you want. It'll count you off, and then you can jam along with it. Suggestions? I would recommend actually taking a look at the drumming lessons section. So before I like have myself on this, I'm kind of delaying. I'm stalling. if you're newer to drumming, what I'm about to play is not at all what I'd recommend even attempting. It is absurd. But I'd recommend starting with the drumming lessons. I try and make the drumming lessons as simple as possible for like how to hold a drumstick, or what to look for with traditional grip, or like how to practice quietly, or just like things like that. Here's the stretch and massage routine that I was doing while I was talking earlier. So those are super simple. The drumming tips playlist that's here has over 13 hours of tips in here. Some of these tips are very complicated. Like what I was talking about earlier is like recommendations of whether or not you should get a doctorate in music. Like that is going to become a drumming tip that I'll release next Friday. And that might not be of interest to you as somebody who's like literally just starting on drums. However, it's not just advanced tips in here. There's also a bunch of intermediate tips and beginner tips. So there's almost 100 videos in here that you can use to like help improve your drumming. Start there. That'll give you some guidance on what like exercises and things to practice, etc. But if you're specifically talking about drum kit, the thing that I'm about to do with the limb independence stuff, all of these limb independence playlists in here have the second video being a video that shows you how to develop limb independence. And the process that I use can be used with very simple stuff, or the thing that I'm about to do, which is a very complicated pattern. So just check out that particular video and that can help you out with that. So good question though. Okay, I've stalled enough. Let's attempt this. 4/4 over 3/4 while changing the left hand every 3 beats. 1 and 2 and a ready and a go and... Okay, so this is nice and slow. The reason why it's nice and slow is because my brain is like, how do you do this? I actually swear I was playing this one faster. Yeah, I'm wrong here. That's number 38. I was playing this at 100. Yeah. I was like, this feels weird. No, we need to go back. Okay, so we're going to go back to the playlist. Sorry. Like, this feels wrong. No, we don't play this 10 clicks slower. Straight drum charts, 100 to 159. There's also, by the way, at the top of my website, there's a link for what to do if you're unsure where to start. And that is a live stream with timestamps in the description that shows you like, oh, if you want to work on your flams, check out this section. If you want to work on your rolls, check out this section. So that could be... Ooh, this feels better. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hey, I appreciate you. I hope you also have a good day. 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. Wish me luck. Ah. It's that switching every bass drum that is just... I'll do it like an eighth note early or an eighth note late. I like really gotta focus all 1000% of my brain to be able to get this one right. Like we graduated from this one a couple of streams ago when it's just like all on one drum, but now that it's switching every 3 notes, it's rough. Okay, and if I did this right, the bass drum will land on the downbeat of this next line with the snare drum. We'll see if I did it right. If this is too difficult, then you could try just like reading the rhythms and changing every 3 beats without playing all the extra limbs, just like literally played on the snare drum. 2, ready, and sweet. I did it right. Early on that. Cool. Hey, thank you for the reacts on the YouTube vertical. Appreciate it. Okay. Chart number 34. Again, the weirdest part is that, like, you're playing the 3-4 on the lower half of your body, and then everything above is, like, 4-4. But, oh no, you gotta switch drums every 3 beats. There we go. Woo-wee! Last chart. Okay, so this one's a little weird. If I remember, this chart was written in 5, like 5/8. What? 2, 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, brain. We survived. Okay, it was mostly technically proficient. Occasionally it was like playing the same drum early or switch drums late or whatever, but mostly making progress on that. Okay, so that one, a bit rough. This next one, so this one's actually a little bit easier, but still weird. So let's see here. Let's change it so you can actually see what I'm about to play. So this, oops. No. There we go. Come on, you can do it. Who's a good Streamlabs? You're a good Streamlabs. Okay, so this pattern. What we're doing. Ding, 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 ding. Cool. Triplet, 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 triplet. Okay, so quarter note triplets. These are not the melody. The melody is actually in your feet. Okay, so in the previous one, it was short notes, eighth notes on the hi-hat, and the long notes on the bass drum, so like quarter notes and longer. But now it's actually short notes on the bass drum, long notes on the hi-hat. You can play it as a shup, where you're having that little sizzle, or you can just close it like that, okay? So last time we did it at 110, and it was mostly technically proficient. Let's try it at 110 again. Because I need the swung charts, we're going to go back to the home tab, and we're going to scroll down, limb independence, boop, and let's see, 110 in the swung version. There's 55 charts, and every one of those like chart playlists, from slow to fast, either straight or swung, whatever you want. Let's do 46 through 50. I recommend jumping around, so that way you're constantly practicing sight reading when working on this. So I'm going to say, hey, I want to play this at 110, and then it'll count you off, and you'll hear it in your headphones or whatever it is you're practicing. 2, 1, 2, already and. Okay, so this is the part that is just on repeat. This is called an ostinato. It's a fancy word for saying like rhythms that just keep going, or melodies that just keep going. Now the melody is going to be in the feet. Ready, and... So my tendency is to actually play the long notes in the bass drum because most of the patterns you play it that way. So my brain was like, play the eighth notes on the hi-hat, and then I was like, good story, right? 2, I just gotta remember while I'm playing it. Ready, and... Ooh, early. Anyone else struggle with getting nervous during a drum lesson? Play great during the week and then feel the pressure? Oh yeah. Whether it's during a drum lesson or while performing. I'll show some like tips that you can do to like help with that after this. So again, the hands are just on autopilot on this. The entire time. They're not the important part. The important part is in the feet. 1, 2, 1, 2, here we go. Why, hello! On the horizontal on YouTube. Oops, read the rhythm wrong. I'm so sorry. The movie thieves, you wouldn't steal money from your grandma, would you? You wouldn't steal a car, would you? The anti-piracy commercials. So I was using the SM7B. Yeah, SM7B is this microphone for people who aren't familiar with it. It's great. And then this one on the front, that's the Rode, what is it, the NT1000 or whatever. So dynamic versus condenser mics. Give you some different results. But this is like the classic like podcast mic. Vocal mic that a lot of people use. All right, so mostly technically proficient while playing through it. Yay! Making progress on it. Let's see. I've already gone over. Let me show you something else that you can do. Actually, no. I gotta respond to your comment, Roy. Okay, so if we go back here, so scroll down, boop 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 boop, into the tips section. There's a video I did. Anxiety. Yeah, so this one. How to prepare for performance anxiety, number 60, drumming tips. So this one, the first, how long is it? 3 minutes is just me talking about tips for performance anxiety. So as like a preview for this, I recommend watching this. Some of the things that I've recommended for students and have done for myself is like to simulate the pressure that you have in performance or in a lesson or whatever by like doing jumping jacks, getting your heart rate going, jog in place, or just like do anything to get that blood pumping, your heart going, and then immediately start playing something. No warm up, not preparing yourself mentally for it, just like the worst case scenario, what you could do for it. So like, for example, when I was auditioning for a drum corps in California, Santa Clara Vanguard in California is way colder than in Phoenix, Arizona, where I was living. So what I ended up doing to prepare for that coldness is I would practice on a quiet pad. When I first woke up in the morning, so I was like not alert mentally, and then I would actually go outside without like a jacket on and practice as like in the worst case scenario, if I'm really cold and I'm really tired, I will have prepared for that. So like this video gives some suggestions on how to do that and to like work through that performance anxiety. And Roy, I think you were the one who actually asking about like scholarship on teaching drums and things like that. This is one of the things that I actually learned from the sports psychology or performance psychology scholarship on how like Olympic level athletes and other people will prepare for high stakes scenarios where you have to be able to perform. I will say though that like I've been drumming for almost 30 years now and have performed in front of like literally tens of thousands of people live, and it's still something that I've been working through. Like when I first started streaming, this is like the 400 and some odd stream that I've done. I like had legit like severe anxiety, like panic attacks, like when I would make a mistake because I was not used to practicing publicly in front of people. And I was like, oh no, I made a mistake. Everyone's going to hear it. And like now that I've done that like a few hundred times, now I'm just like, I made a mistake. Someone's going to say I suck at drums. Yeah, you're right. I'm terrible. We should take back all my awards. Like, it's one of those things that just gets better with the more you do it. So if you can simulate that, that can help you with that. So I think I talk about it in this video, maybe it's in some other ones, but like you can put on like a video of like a large crowd and practice in front of that while you're like having a large crowd staring at you, ideally not even reacting, just looking bored, etc. You can even visualize it. So like it's often called like visualization or mental imagery. It's like basically the same idea where you visualize yourself in a high stakes environment, whether it's an audition setting or in a like a performance or like in what you mentioned in a drum lesson, and think about it going wrong, not doing good, etc., and visualize that, and then play through it and like try and like work through that mental anxiety, that hold up, etc. You feel like this is a waste of money? You should have gotten it at the handheld. It depends on what you're going for. So like this is like way better than the quality of my like NT1000, and like I would never use like a lapel mic. They just sound too tinny. Like it gets rid of, so if you think of like the EQ, like the broader range of the spectrum from like lows to highs, like whatever kind of mic you have, you want it to have like ideally like a nice flat even balance across all of that. But like the lower quality you go, the more it's like kind of starts to do this, where it kind of has like a band pass on it, where it like it chops off the lows and the highs, and then so your voice sounds terrible. So like I used to use a H4n Zoom, and it like just does not sound nearly as good as like the SM7B. But if you have like a quality handheld that like sounds just as good as your SM7B, cool. It's not the only mic you have to get for whatever you're doing. Do I have vocal coaching videos? I do not. I do have friends who teach that, like university professors who are vocalists. I'm not a vocalist at all. I hit stuff. Even though I've taught like band and orchestra, or I've learned all those instruments, and then I taught band, I taught percussion, general music classes, etc. Like I would not consider myself proficient on those. And even though I taught choir related stuff to like elementary school kids, like it's not my specialty by any means. Oh, nice, cool. We get a bot. But first, we gotta report them to Twitch. So that way, nobody else will ever have to deal with that spam. Nobody cares about buying viewers. Thanks. Selling viewers. Submit. And blocked. Guess what? Twitch is gonna ban you. Hello, Infinity. But movie thieves, good question. Okay, I'm gonna do an easier pattern here. So obviously I'm not gonna do the Tomb Raider stream. We'll start that here in like 20 or so minutes. I'm gonna show you an easier pattern. So what I'm gonna do is go into the limb independence section, and we're just gonna do straight drum charts. And what I'm gonna do is read through a pattern with the snare drum playing eighth notes and the bass drum playing the long notes. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna play eighth notes on the hi-hat. So we'll hide that because that's not what I'm actually playing through. So what I'm gonna do is just pick a tempo and just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm gonna practice my limb independence by just playing short notes, the eighth notes, and the long notes on the bass drum. Okay, so this is gonna be a very basic pattern compared to like the things that I was just like working on when practicing this. So I'm gonna go to timestamps. I'm gonna say, hey, let's play this at, I don't know, 140. Sounds great. But this is something that you can do if you're more of a beginner. You could play just eighth notes and just read through it all on the snare drum, or just eighth notes and read through it all on the bass drum. Or if you want to get fancy, you can do this short long like I'm about to, and read through it this way. Okay, so you can slow this down. You don't have to go this fast. 1, 2, ready, and... Okay, pretty basic, right? You could also switch it around, so you do like the short notes on the bass drum, the long notes on the snare drum, whatever you want to do. This will just like teach you some phrases that you can do. You can even play it on the ride. Left off the note. I'm so sorry. A 1, a 2, a here we go. Pretty basic, right? More accessible than what I was playing earlier. One, two, ready, and... You can improvise on this top line if you want to. 1, 2, 1, 2, here we go. Why, hello. Sweet. So, easier, right? You don't have to do all the super complicated stuff that, like, we're doing on here. But I like to practice that because I think it's fun. So, you do you. All of these play-alongs, all 2,000 plus of them, are on my home tab of YouTube. And if you scroll down, you'll find the chop stuff here. Over 1,000 grid variations. Click to expand to show all of the playlists in here. All the limb independent stuff is right here. Almost 500 marching bass stuff. Some drumline cadences. Almost 400 technique stuff. Again, click to show all the playlists on the technique one. And then over 13 hours of drumming tips. Some scripted lessons. And then over 400 live streams so that you can practice. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate it. If you see one of the 450 some odd videos that are members first, it's all scheduled to come out for free. If you want early access, there's a join button next to the videos. It's 99 cents. So when you go here, 99 cents. That's the lowest I could possibly make it. So if you want early access, cool. Otherwise, just wait. It'll come out. I promise. Anyways, I'm going to call it here. I went over on time. I've been doing that the last couple of streams. But I appreciate the chats. Good questions. Good conversations. Hello. So, yeah. You're looking for some more independence workouts? Hey, you're very welcome. Yeah, so the limb independence section, each one of these playlists has that video, the second one, that shows you how to work on it. So there's like several steps that you can do, starting with very basic to more complicated. And then the rest of the video is like examples of like more complicated limb independence patterns that you can play for like different styles, Latin, jazz, rock, whatever. So check out that video for a step-by-step guide on how to do that. But anyways, I'm going to call it here. I appreciate you all. If you appreciate me and you like this content, just share it with somebody else. It helps me out. I'm not trying to make $1 billion, but I am trying to make more than $1 a day that I'm currently making from the AdSense. So you don't have to sign up for membership, but if you share it with other people, it makes it so that hopefully more people use these free resources. But I like to drum. I hope you like to drum. Share it with other people who like to drum. Goodbye.